What did we cover? We covered me being molested as a child, we covered me dating a 40-year-old, we covered me dating other terrible people. We covered a lot of the jobs I did. We covered my past drug addiction. And last week I put up a video of me having dinner with my older brother.
You haven't trained. You told me you were going to go to Sydney and get a trainer. You haven't done that.
I needed to find an apartment. I've just found an apartment.
Do I ever break commitments with you?
And obviously he is white and people are very confused, and judging by the comments, it seems like I have a lot of new followers who do not really understand what the law is behind me. And since I just started again on YouTube recently, I thought this is a really good opportunity to reintroduce myself. So here is the law of Albert Cho. My name is Albert Cho, but my full name is Sungwook Albert Cho. Sungwook is my first name, Albert is my middle name, and Cho is my surname. And Cho Sungwook derives from Cho Sungwook, which is my Korean name. Yes, both my parents are Korean, and they immigrated to Auckland, New Zealand, I believe in 1993, and then my sister was born in 1994, and I was born in 1997, April 4th. I am an Aries, so I was born and raised in Auckland, New Zealand. When I tell people that I come from an immigrant family, I think they almost expect a sob story, or at least a struggle story. I cannot give you that. My parents didn't struggle with money. Their parents, so my grandparents, bought them a house right away. I always got what I wanted. I lived in a pretty good area. It's not like we're incredibly wealthy, but we never struggled. And I'm not going to fake a struggle story for you guys. As a child, I was both very confident and also very shy. So when I went out and met new people, I had crippling anxiety. I could not talk to anyone. But when I was at home and with people that I was familiar with, I was incredibly confident and loud and talkative. This confused my parents because they were like, is he introverted or is he extroverted? And people still get confused to this day if I'm extroverted or introverted. And I think I'm an extroverted introvert. I love going out, meeting new people, but I do need to have my alone time so I can recharge. Unfortunately, when I got older and entered high school, the shyness took over my confidence. I think a lot of that was due to the fact that my body was changing and I was gaining a lot of weight. I also loved to eat. I've always loved to eat. And growing up in Auckland, New Zealand, and the school that I went to, Takapuna Grammar, was predominantly a white school. So not only was I a minority, but I was also fat, short. I hit puberty really late, so I had a very, very high voice. So I really needed to pick a struggle, but instead I just picked all of them. I decided my game plan for high school was to just go under the radar. I was going to go through my 5 years of high school invisible. And in the beginning, I was pretty good at it. I reached a point when a lot of people thought that I was an international student that could not speak English. But of course, truth prevails, and slowly but surely, people found a way to pick on me, and my nickname was Albert Chode, because I was fat and short. Honestly, creative. When bullying is creative and gags you, I mean, what can you say? Really, truly. I didn't ever really have a solid core friend group in high school, especially during the early days of high school. So I will never forget those few friends that I did have when I was not necessarily cool and when I was severely overweight and incredibly shy. Ella is one of them, and I will name drop her because she is my longest, closest friend. You guys know her as Lord. Yes, everyone in New Zealand knows each other. I had a lot of panic attacks during high school, and I genuinely didn't know why. I couldn't sleep without white noise being in the background, and I also woke up with this heavy feeling on my chest, like it was going to fall out my butt. And I truly did not know what was going on in my brain, but this happened from when I was 13 years old to 15 years old until I went to health class. And during health class, we were learning about consent, and all these memories from my childhood came back to me, and I got flashbacks of when I was molested as a kid. I was molested by a family friend when I was 5 years old, and I wanted to include this because in my teenage years, when I had this realization, after repressing this for so long, I was so ashamed about it. And it only got easier when I started talking about it with other people, because unfortunately, it is so much more common than you think. And if you're anyone that's going through anything similar, I really, really recommend you just talk to someone, even though it's scary and there's that fear that people won't believe you. And trust me, a lot of people didn't believe me either when I first started talking about it. Some of the closest people to me, like family members, did not believe me. But it truly is better than staying silent, so just please talk to someone. So that happened, and I really just went within myself. I did not really want to open up to anyone, and it was quite lonely in high school. But as I mentioned before, I wasn't completely alone. I still had friends here and there, and I'll never forget Cassidy Gish, if you're watching this. She invited me to my first house party, and unfortunately before that first house party, I got severely sick. But I was going to make it to the house party no matter what. So I took a week off school, vomited and shat my guts out. I think I had like a mixture of the flu and food poisoning. It was hectic. And I went to this house party. And because kids were a little bit drunk, everyone was commenting on my weight loss. They were like, your face looks different. You look way better. And I got addicted to this feeling. So I started to develop ways of not eating. And then a few months later, I went to Korea with my family. And my Korean relatives were all commenting about how much weight I had lost. And I started to get addicted to this feeling even more so. I started doing really unhealthy things. And I would be chewing my food but spitting it back out into a napkin. I would be vomiting my food out, and I would just try avoid food as much as possible. And after doing this for almost like 3 months, I came back to school in year 12, which is like my junior year of high school. And I will never forget the 180 that everyone had. Genuinely, it was like a movie, and suddenly everyone wanted to be my friend. I remember like someone called like Albert Cho was like everyone's shiny new toy. And it genuinely was that easy. All I had to do was just lose some fucking weight. And in a way, it actually breaks my heart when I think about it. In that summer break, I had lost almost 20 kilograms and also hit puberty and grew 20 centimeters or something. So it was a very big transformation, and that led to me becoming quite popular. And in addition to that, Ella debuted as Lorde, and her music career was taking off, and she was my best friend. So I became cool through association. So everything added up, and I went from like being no one, Albert Chode, into being one of the most popular guys in school. So on top of becoming skinny and becoming popular, I also got scouted as a model. And I think my trauma of being picked on and ridiculed for being a fat kid, I think I just celebrated being a model so much inside my head. It was almost like a triumphant moment for me where I got to beat all those people that made fun of me for my weight. So that was my plan. I was going to sign with this modeling agency, and I was going to absolutely take off. Obviously, I didn't. This agency was called 62 Models. They're a great agency. They're probably the reason why I still have a sane mind today. But yeah, that was my plan. I was going to become a model. And all the ducks were kind of lining up for me because I started getting interest from Korean agencies as well. So my plan was to go to university because my parents, they needed me to get an education. There was no negotiating that. But on my holidays, on my breaks, I would go to South Korea to really try this modeling thing out. And by the time I graduated university, I was going to do modeling full-time. So I applied to the University of Auckland, and I was doing a conjoint degree of Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Arts. And I fucking hated it. I hated it so much. I think what made me hate it was accounting. Accounting 101 is still like one of the hardest papers I've ever done. So I did a semester of it. And after a semester, I took a gap semester, and I was like, I need to figure my shit out. And that's when I took my cafe part-time job that I was working just as a student full-time. And I really, really, really fell in love with hospitality. I loved seeing our regulars and getting to know our regulars. And I just really loved the energy I got from hospitality. I think that was like the first glimpse of me falling in love with hospitality as a profession. However, in New Zealand, hospitality is not an actual profession. It's not considered as one. In New Zealand, the tipping culture is not a really big thing, so you can't really make that much money in hospitality. So being a waiter is seen as a job that is kind of like a job you have as a tide over until you get a real job. So that's exactly what I was doing. I was using hospitality as a job until I figured out what I want to do. And I realized this whole time I wanted to be in media, whether that was in front of the camera or behind the camera. And the degree that would satisfy and fulfill my needs was AUT University's Bachelor of Communications. Girl, was I wrong? That degree is a joke. Don't do that degree. We learned how to use our iPhone cameras for a lecture. So I was back on track. I was doing university, going to AUT, studying communications, majoring in public relations and minoring in journalism. And then on my breaks, I would go to Korea to model. Every time I went to Korea, my mental health started getting worse. In Korea, there's a comfortability about commenting on someone's appearance. And in the modeling industry, that is like multiplied by 1,000. I was being picked apart at such a young age. And also my agency did not have a lot of money. And mind you, this is not 62 Models. This is my Korean agency, which I will not name. They did not have a lot of money. And this led to men and women doing test shoots together. So the men were expected to fit the singlets and skinny jeans that the women were fitting. So I was just not in a good way. I fell into a severe ED. And in my second to last year of university, when I went to a 3-month trip to Korea to try modeling, I was sent back home to New Zealand because my mental health got so bad, as well as my physical health. And they told me to focus on getting healthy again if I wanted to pursue this career further. Mind you, this was also during a time period when I was dating the worst person I've ever dated. I won't name her, of course, but she sucks, bro. I think she's a big reason to why I'm gay. She was crazy. When I would hang out with my friends, she would make me list every friend that I was with. She would make me record videos of who I was with. It was an emotionally abusive relationship. She was an absolute fucking psycho, and she ended up cheating on me. Anyways, so how I found out she cheated on me was because she logged into my phone and she forgot. And no, I was not snooping. Let me explain my story. We went to Japan together, and she had smashed her phone, which she also made like the biggest deal about. I'm like, babe, we can get it fixed, but whatever. She smashed her phone, but she still needed to post on Instagram for her 3 followers to see. So she logged onto Instagram on my phone. Then she went back to New Zealand to be like a nurse because she's a nursing student. And now I think she's an actual mental health nurse, which is very ironic because she did not log out of Instagram on my phone. So she was in New Zealand being a nurse. I'm in Korea being a model. I'm in the modeling van, going to castings, being driven to castings. I'm like scrolling through my phone, and I get these messages from these guys that I never liked because they used to flirt with my girlfriend. So I'm like, why am I getting these messages? So I go on the messages, and it goes to her Instagram. And she's talking about like, oh, like I had a great time last night. And like, they're like, when are you gonna break up with him? She's like, I'll do it as soon as he gets back to New Zealand, so I better do it. I actually gave her a week, and I was like, hey, do you have anything to tell me? And she was like, no. And I was like, do you swear on your parents' and dogs' lives that you have nothing to tell me? She said, no, I don't. And I was like, well, your parents and dogs are dead because I know everything. She actually didn't know that I found out because I read the messages, but I guess she has found out now. And funnily enough, she is now getting married to a guy named Jungwook, and my name's Sungwook. Anyways, we got a little bit off track there. I came back to New Zealand, and it was my final year of university, and I really started to fall in love with journalism. I really started to love it. I really enjoyed writing stories, and that kind of became a new passion of mine because I was gaining a lot of weight when I came back to New Zealand. It's just what the body does when you deprive it for so long. I was just binging and eating, and it was just a vicious cycle of binging and eating. And I was trying so hard to not make myself, but sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. All in all, I just gained a lot of weight, and the career of being a model was becoming more and more distant, but my career as a journalist started becoming a lot clearer and something I want to do more. And as I mentioned before, I was recovering, and my therapist at the time was like, a really good way to recover is to find the enjoyment of food again. It reached a point of me depriving myself from food so much that I had forgotten what feeling full was like. I had forgotten what food I actually enjoy. So he was like, you need to rediscover that. So you should start like an Instagram page or something and just keep a little food diary. Not to keep track of your food, but to just kind of find enjoyment in food again. I was like, okay, cool. I named my account Eat Lit Food because my friend, her name's Ella Wells. This is not Lord Ella, this is another Ella. She made a Facebook status saying Tame Impala is so lit. I just found it so fucking funny that I called my thing Eat Lit Food. During my recovery, I also really tried to have just one meal a day. That was like my rule to myself. So obviously I still wasn't doing well mentally. I was like, I'm just going to give myself one meal a day, and that meal would be massive. And I would read reviews on restaurants all the time to make sure that one meal I was getting was going to be outstandingly perfect. And after reading these reviews, I was like, okay, these reviews are kind of not good. I was reading them and they just came off very elitist, and I was like, no one talks like that about food or restaurants. So I started writing reviews, and I was just talking in a way that me and my peers talked, which included a lot of swearing, and I think that just resonated with a lot of people. So Eat Lit Food, my recovery page, was gaining so much traction. I was genuinely getting 10,000 followers a week. And I remember it being very, very exciting, but also very daunting because I was like, holy shit, no one knows that I'm actually a recovering eating disorder freak. And I want to keep that fact hidden. I do not want to be a recovery page because anything to do with mental health is a lot of pressure. And as someone that was still recovering, I felt like I was not qualified at all to speak on such a sensitive issue. So I was like literally freshly 20 years old doing this Instagram page, Eat Look Food, and I was gaining a lot of attention. And it caught the eyes of Claire Sullivan-Krauss, and she's the editor-in-chief of Denizen magazine, which is a luxury magazine in New Zealand. And she gave me an opportunity to write the gastronomy section, which is like the food section of the magazine, and I was a junior writer there. So my love for journalism and dream for journalism came true because of her. She was an intense boss. She really was. Would I work there again? No. But do I thank her for everything she's done? Yeah, I do. She built very thick skin in me. I do actually also feel like I owe a lot to not just her, but all the women that worked with me during that time. That was like me entering a whole new world of art and fashion. Because before I went into Denizen, I did have a chip on my shoulder. I was like, this is all so materialistic, like we're better than this. But then I fell in love with art and fashion because of this magazine. And I really started to value creating a taste for yourself and finding what you like and finding what you don't like, and how that in itself is a luxury. Like I said before, I was so young and I had a chip on my shoulder, so I was doing a lot of social commentary about society. So not only was I talking shit about restaurants, but I was also talking shit about people. And I remember Anna, who was the creative director of Denizen magazine, she pulled me into the office and she was like, what's the motive here? Like, do you want to be known as a guy that's making fun of people, or do you want to be known as a person that's positive? Because right now, yes, your negativity is gaining traction, but at the end of the day, people are attracted to positive people. And I would say that was a huge turning point for Eat Look Food, because I was fueled by controversy. Swearing was one thing, but then also I was known as like the only honest food reviewer in New Zealand. So I was tearing down restaurants. And I think if I kept on that track, I would have fallen off so much faster, because it is true, people are attracted to positive people. But yeah, thank you, Anna, for changing the trajectory of my life. Also, sorry this is a mess. I have this like written on a laptop and I'm referring to it, but it's proving to be like still a mess. Where was I? Oh yes, I was at Denizen magazine. I was writing about luxury, I was writing about food. I loved my job. However, this was when I started to get into substances. Yeah, I was in my early 20s. I was very impressionable. I was in the media industry and other people were offering it to me. Not the people at my work, just other people in the media and marketing industry were offering it to me. Super impressionable, and I got hooked on snow. All the money that I was making through my journalism job, I was spending it on drugs. This was also the time period when I started hooking up with men and really exploring my sexuality. And I came out as gay to my parents and they responded horribly. But also, I do need to add that the way I came out was pretty terrible. I was doing an interview and I was talking about how awkward it is sucking dick in a car, because when they come in your mouth and you don't want to swallow, it gets really awkward when you have to open the car door, spit the out, and then close the door shut.
Spit the shit out. Car's closed. I'm imagining like opening a car, like the car door, and like spitting it out and slamming it closed. I'm like, that's so shameful to this guy. And I was just like, I just gulped and I was like, ugh.
And my dad's colleague saw this interview and showed it to my dad. So imagine not ever hearing from your son that he's gay, but then suddenly you get this interview about him sucking. It's a shock. I remember him calling me at like 2 a.m. and he was like, what the fuck is this? It was the whole thing. It was so bad. And after that, our relationship was never, ever, ever the same. Ever. And fair enough. And this is not me warranting anyone to talk shit about my parents right now. My parents are from small town Korea. They're not even from Seoul. They're from a tiny small town. They're like the redneck equivalent of South Korea. They're also Catholic. They've lived the way they have for 60 plus years. They are not going to change, and I do not expect them to change. But yes, this is when I came out of the closet to my parents and they disowned me. This was very, very difficult for me. And on top of that, COVID happened and I was made redundant from my job. Terrible. So there's COVID lockdown, I was made redundant from my job, and I was also disowned by my parents. After my redundancy, I started doing Eat Look Food full time, and I realized, oh my God, I can actually make bank doing this influencer thing full time. Which at the time, I wasn't making huge amounts of money, but I just was not used to the amount of money that was coming in so fast. I don't think anyone can prepare a young person for that. So my substance issues was getting out of control. I was on drugs from Wednesday to Sunday, sometimes Monday to Sunday, all day, every day. And I was really good at hiding it. This was probably the lowest point in my life. I was in a very, very deep, dark pit. Fucking literally anyone. I've literally had sex with people and I still do not know what their faces look like. Like someone could walk past me and then fuck me and I would not know. I was down bad. I did not value myself at all. And you know how I mentioned the creative director of Denizen magazine, Anna? She had changed the trajectory of my life. That wasn't even the beginning. So she had left Denizen magazine and she started her own marketing agency. And we were very close. We remained very close. And there was one night where we had dinner together, had a few drinks, and I went back to hers. And she was like, God, I really need to find an employee who's young and just kind of on the nose and knows what to do when it comes to social media. And I was like, and she was like, there's no way you want a job right now. Like, you're making a lot of money, not really doing a lot. I was like, no, I think I do. I think this is not about money. This is about routine. Like, I need to get my life together. And this is during a time when I was really not liked by the public because I was just partying so much publicly. People were getting tired of my shit. So she really took a big risk hiring me. And we actually started on a 3-month contract. So I started on a 3-month contract at Mark by South. And I fell in love with the routine. I fell in love with the job. I loved it so much that I fell in love with the people. And I'd say that really got me out of my slump. And the best part about my job is that I got to work with Dan Carter. He was like the main client that I looked after, and he was even sexier in person. I love that man. I was in love with him. I think I was in love with him. He wasn't in love with me. He was married with kids and is not gay. So talking about love, everything's going great. My job, I love it. My substance issues are still pretty bad, but I'm not doing it on weekdays as much because I need to get my shit together at work, but I was still going absolutely fucking hundies on the weekend. Everything was good though. Like, honestly, things are looking up, but unfortunately I was dating an absolute loser. I said that my girlfriend during university was the worst relationship I've been in. No, this was the worst one. This was the absolute worst one. It was a COVID relationship that went too far. We were lonely during COVID and we latched onto each other and we did not let go when we really should have. I was cheating on him, he was cheating on me, we were terrible for each other, we fucking hated each other, okay? He truly did not give a fuck about me. During this time when everything was good, in terms of work and everything, I also picked up a book publishing deal with Penguin, and the book is called I Love My Stupid Life. And I remember writing that book, and the last chapter was supposed to be about him, and I was just forcing myself to just write sweet words about him, and I wanted to vomit, because they were not authentic and true or genuine. I hated him. He hated me as well, to the point that he forgot my book launch. Like, I had been writing this book for 2 years and he forgot that it just ever happened. He literally didn't even buy me flowers. Honestly, my dating life during this period was such a mess. Everything was going good apart from my dating life. Before this loser boyfriend, I was dating a 40-year-old. Honestly, kudos to him, props to him, because he was refusing to make it official because of the age gap. I was 23, he was 40. And I was like, I have my life together. And he was like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're a child. Like, get your shit together, maybe in 10 years, but not now. But I was like yearning for it. Well, what was I doing? Despite the negative relationships, while I was in Mark by South though, like that era of my life was when things really start to just become good for me. I also found a family. So the story on this is that Mark by South needed another young person who was a good content creator. And I suggested this girl called Toby Innes because she is quite popular as an influencer in New Zealand, and she was quite on the nose when it came to like TikTok trends and stuff. So I was like, this girl seems good. And she was also the daughter of Sarah, and Sarah owned 62 Models, which was the agency that I was a part of. She founded it and she was a CEO of it. Although I was a part of 62 Models after Sarah had sold it, it was in that transition period when Sarah would still visit the agency quite frequently, and I'd bump into her. I was scared shitless of her. She was so fucking scary. I never looked her in the eyes. But yeah, that was Toby's mum. Anyways, so Toby and we start working together, and she, you know when people just come into your life and it seems like they've been in your life the whole entire time? Toby was that person for me. Like, she and I just clicked and we just became the bestest of friends. And this was during a time when I was really mentally struggling with my family rejecting me. And Toby clearly saw this, and she took me into her family, and they truly treat me as their own, and I love them so much. I call Sarah my mum. She calls me her son. I call Toby and her older sister my sisters. They're honestly the closest thing I have to family. They will be the ones at my wedding, and I just love them so much. And this is a gift I've gotten that will never ever compare to anything else. Toby's literally given me the best gift of all, which is a family. And when I was introduced to this family, I was also, oh my God. She's calling me. What up? Hey, I'm just filming a video right now. I was literally just talking about you.
Oh my gosh, were you saying anything nice?
No, I was like saying the nicest stuff.
Oh my god.
I said you're someone who's given me the greatest gift of all.
What is it?
Yourself and your family. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm wondering if I should talk about how...
No.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to finish recording this video and I'll call you back.
Okay.
I love you, bye.
I love you.
I love her. Yeah, Toby, she has given me the greatest gift of all. Before I was adopted into this family, they had already adopted this other guy called Izzy. He's a brother that's in my video. So I was introduced to him as my brother, hence why my brother is white. Anyway, so yeah, dating losers, and then I was carrying on working at Mark by South, doing a good job. I was quite good at my job. I will give myself credit for that. And then we're approached by this man called David Lee. David Lee wanted a marketing campaign for a new restaurant he was opening in Ponsonby called iGo. And David and I just worked with such great synergy. And I knew of David for a long time. I've known of David since I was 15 years old because I would go to the cafes that he would open. He was also Korean, and he was always talked about in the Korean community. I remember he did like he accidentally went on live years and years ago. He didn't know that he was on live. Like, I think he was at the beach and like his camera was like just like there. But I took that as an opportunity to write, I'm going to work for you one day. And this was like kind of like a full circle moment. Like, I was working with him with this marketing campaign. But then, because our working synergy was so great, he approached me being like, hey, I am starting this hospitality group called Namu Group, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. I would love for you to be an operations manager. I had no idea what that title meant. I had no idea what that role entailed. And I just wanted to work with him so bad that I said yes. It was so hard for me to leave my marketing job at Mark by South because I loved it so much, and it was also very comfortable for me. And I'm someone that doesn't like to get out of my comfort zone very much. So yeah, I resigned, went with David, and really just dived into hospitality. So I went from reviewing restaurants to now working at restaurants. And it was just such a different dynamic. And after having worked at restaurants, I would never review a restaurant like I used to. Because a lot of the time, when you give feedback to a restaurant, the restaurant already fucking knows. They know. They don't need you to tell them through a screen. They know what changes they need to implement. It's just the fact that implementing changes are a lot harder than you think. After working as an operations manager at Namu Group, David approached me being like, I have this site on Ponsonby Road that I want you to be a part of. If you want to invest your own money into it, like, I'm not going to pressure you, but I think it'll do well. I'd love to do a project with you. And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. The main criticism I got from people when I was reviewing restaurants was that I had no idea what owning a restaurant was like. So why the fuck do you not just open your own? Well, what about now? I did. It was hard. It was so hard. In 2023, I opened my restaurant and I named it after Toby. This actually isn't, there's not much to this story why I named it after her. Yes, because I'm so close to her, but also it's because we're coming up with a name, me and the three other owners. So there's Tom, me, Jay, and David. And Tom and Jay are very, very, how do I say this? Fresh off the boat Koreans. Like, they don't speak great English. So when it comes to like coming up with names for restaurants, they're not the greatest and they just take the piss out of it. So they're like, what about perfect restaurant? What about gorgeous restaurant? And like David was just getting fed up. And Toby had texted me during our brainstorming session. And I just saw the way her name looked, because it ends with an I, it's not T-O-B-Y, it's T-O-B-I. And it just looked really, really pretty and cute. And I thought that juxtaposed with a restaurant that seats 120 people was quite interesting. So I just like kind of threw it in there. But what about Toby? David was like, done. So yeah, we opened Toby, and this was hard. It was hard. Especially because I came from reviewing restaurants and shitting on other restaurants. People were waiting to shit on mine. I will give people credit though. It was shit when it first opened. I had so much to learn. It was quite terrible, and I really had to learn quick. We almost went out of business at one point because we were doing Western dining, and I couldn't grasp the costing of Western dishes. Like the beef jus was so expensive to make and we're losing so much money. It was just all these things. We changed the cuisine to Asian fusion. That was actually David Lee's idea. And after that, we started just going like boom, 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 boom. Yes, success, good, great. Results soared. Now, this is also a similar time frame of when I met Louie. Okay, so how did I meet my roommate? Let's just take it back a little bit to right after I left the marketing agency, Mark by South, and I started as an operations manager of Namu Group. So I was still dating the fucking loser. What should we call his nickname? Let's call it Loser. Yeah, okay. I was dating the loser and I caught the loser cheating on me. Although him and I were cheating on each other, we never caught each other in the act, but this time I caught him in the fucking act. Literally love. This alongside a lot of other things that I just will not talk about because I want to protect his peace, but most of all, I want to protect my peace. I do not want to open this can of worms, but he had a lot of fucking demons. But catching him cheat on me, final straw. I kind of saw that as my golden ticket opportunity to like get out of this relationship unscathed and like not the bad guy. Because like, I caught you cheating, you didn't catch me. So yes, I broke up with him on the spot. I stayed up all night calling my best friends, calling my long distance best friends, being like, what do I do with my life? I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm like single now. I genuinely didn't give a fuck that I was single. I just wanted to be dramatic now that I'm thinking back. Anyways, I couldn't get to sleep and I was like not rusted on to work that next morning because it was a Saturday. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my mind off things and just go to work. I went to work and then comes this guy with red hair, fiery orange hair, big shoulders, biceps, pale milky skin. I found him really hot. And he came in for lunch to the restaurant that I was working at that day. It was Igo in Newmarket. Do you guys remember that one? That was a very short stint. He came in with his friends. And I remember just like kind of like being like, whoa, he's really hot. But I didn't know if he was gay or not, so I just kind of like didn't give him too much attention. But I did catch him like staring at me a few times. I was like, is he staring at me? I don't know, but whatever. That's how we first met. And then I checked my Instagram and I realized he had messaged me. Now I do get a lot of message requests, not always flirty. It's just like general message requests. But Louie's one stood out because he's a redhead. His orange fiery hair and his like little profile photo stood out amongst the crowd. So I clicked on it and he just asked me how I was. We started talking. And then shortly after that, okay, so what happened was I really wanted to get with him. So I drunk messaged him once. I wanted to come over after we'd been messaging for like a week at this point. And he did not want me to meet him for the first time in the drunk state. So he rejected me. And this led me to, I literally like had sex with like a 75-year-old to spite him. That next Monday, he asked me to come over and we, we did the thing. And then I think 2 days after that, we went on our first proper date. I said, I love you, literally after that. And I moved in by that next week. It was so quick, but when you know, you know. And I'd say the combination of me being in Namu Group, having this rigorous routine of being in hospitality, opening my own restaurant, having to work so hard at that, and also having a support system like Louie, that is what really got me out of the trenches. And that is why I'm here today. I was so comfortable living in New Zealand. I really set my roots down there and I was ready to live there forever. But recently, by recently I mean like a year ago, I realized that a lot of the PR companies and brands in New Zealand were starting to collaborate with Australia a lot more. So instead of just NZ, it started becoming ANZ. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I sign with an Australian agency because there's a bigger market there and maybe that could lead to more opportunities. So I signed with my current agency right now, Cult with a K. They are amazing. Shout out to Alice, Emily, and Ollie. Me signing to an Australian agency was never with the motive of me moving to Australia. My ideal situation was for me to live in New Zealand, carry on operating my restaurant, and go back and forth to Australia if I had like a job or a brand trip here. But a few months after I signed with Cult, Louie got headhunted by a company called Eat Club. And they wanted him to be the chief marketing officer. And this was a role that I know he's always wanted. And he wanted this job so bad. And he sat me down and was like, I really want to take this opportunity. And I was like, let's take this as a sign. We need to move our butts to Sydney. So we did that about a month ago now. He is loving his job. I'm loving my agency, although it's quite lonely here, I'm not gonna lie. Moving in your late 20s has been very interesting because I think in your late 20s, a lot of people have already set their roots down. So welcoming someone new into their life is it's not common. So I know me finding like friends is gonna take a while, but I have found some awesome friends. I've reconnected with some friends as well. So it's been good. But yeah, I guess that's about it. So what did we cover? We covered me being molested as a child. We covered me dating a 40-year-old. We covered me dating other terrible people. We covered a lot of the jobs that I did. We covered my past drug addiction. And I guess that's about it. You know what? There is a lot more lore to me that I've not really talked about in this video, believe it or not. But if you want me to like get into like a little bit more detail about a few things that you've heard here and there, comment down below. Also, I really liked doing the sit down videos. So I want like to do a video where I just sit down and do a Q&A and answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to comment down below. And my favorite part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.